right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long time, but here he is, Mr. Gary Kroger.
Well, thank you very much, Kenny. I was just going to say, thank you for joining the Gary and Kenny show. It's been a long time, but Kenny's already said that. It has been a long time.
I know.
It's been a very long time. We take the summer off.
I hope people have waited.
No, I know some people do. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
My ex-wife's husband enjoys our show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we have people that ask about...
I send them. Does he want me to autograph anything for him? I can send him something.
That hasn't come up at this point.
Oh, people do tell me. People do tell me. They say, "Oh, they really enjoy the show," but nobody ever says, "When are you coming back?"
Right.
Anyhow.
There's lots of things I really enjoy, but I don't need to do them again.
I don't know. How much do we want to rehash all of the stuff that's
let's not rehash too much. It's just for the viewers and the listeners' sake. It's just me and Kenny. We don't have a guest. We'll talk for a little while, but we need to catch up. And I find it best to catch up with you without some guest interfering with our conversation.
I know.
So I'm very happy with this setup, Kenny, because a lot's gone on. I've had a very challenging summer.
You're always busy.
I'm always busy, but I get busier when I should get less busy. In other words, I wanted to have a summer where I relaxed a little bit, but it just didn't work out that way.
Why? What'd you do?
Well, I lost one of my biggest client, and that's 20% of my income at a time when I wanted to increase my income.
How'd you fuck that up, Gary?
I didn't fuck it up, actually. I'm farmed out from a company that manages this client, and I just do their media. I do their commercials. And so they lost the client, and therefore I lost the client. But it's a time when I needed more money because I've got a kid going to private school. And as a result, Kenny, he can't go to school this fall. So he is taking a gap year to earn money so that we're not in this predicament. And I've got more time to try to generate more income. But that's a lot of stress. That's not the summer I wanted.
I was hoping for a more entertaining and funny kind of story.
Yeah.
So is this like a GoFundMe kind of thing?
No, I'll never do that.
Let's send Gary's kid to college.
I'll never do that. Now, I participate in friends who have physical conditions, and there's a GoFundMe, or a family that lost a loved one and they need money. But I can't think of a situation where I would do a GoFundMe. I don't ever want to ask for help, basically.
Well, I know, but I feel terrible.
I'm saying that. If you wanted to send a little money, I'm okay with that.
Wow. You sure you want this to be the...
I'm fine. But he goes to a $60,000 a year school.
Sounds like a cry for help, Gary.
He goes to an expensive school, and he's doing great. But education is very hard to afford. And we took out loans, but I don't want the kid to graduate with $150,000, in debt.
This goes into whole politics about Biden wanting to forgive student loans.
Of course it
it's
does.
Right. But I don't want to delve. I mean, a lot of stuff has happened. There's new hope and light with Kamala
Yes, there
Harris,
is. We've got some energy.
So that's good. So, well, is there anything that you did over the summer that you found rewarding?
I went to see the Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh, how was that?
I went with my son, and I was thoroughly entertained.
Well, because he has all this free time since he's not going to college.
Right. So we go to the movies, right? Yeah. So we went, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I laughed a lot. Ask me what the film's about.
Okay.
I have no idea. I don't know what I was. There's no narrative thread in that film that I understood on any level.
Okay.
I can't tell you why there were a bunch of Wolverines or alternate realities or anything.
Right. But there's supposed to be clever repartee.
There's lots of clever repartee, but I'm like a toddler where basically, you put balloons in front of me and I'm amused. So there were these jokes and action that I found amusing, but it wasn't a story I could follow. And I asked my kid,
your son, what was his thoughts?
He understood every bit of it. He said, "Well, Dad, that's because this is following the Marvel universe and it's melding with this universe, and that's a reference to the last one." And da. He got it all.
Right.
None of that.
Do you know what his generation is now experiencing? I read this in the paper, so it must be true. They're now experiencing nostalgia.
Nostalgia for
Well, we've always had
the
nostalgia.
First Wolverine movie?
Back. we would go back and oh, remember the 60s, remember
Yeah,
the
of course.
70s. Oh, remember when TV was like this and the movie
Yeah.
is now that generation. I think I'm not sure if they're the Gen Z or the millennials now are reminiscing about the 90s.
The 90s.
Yes.
Because reminiscing about, well,
I don't know. I guess
I,
the days maybe of a Walkman or
but the reminiscing about the 90s would have to be Gen X
I see.
because
I get confused. I don't know what.
Gen Y or Gen Z was born in the late 90s, so they can't reminisce about the 90s. So Gen X, Y might be
Okay, whatever.
reminiscing.
Whoever is if somebody's
God, we
reminiscing about
sound
the
old.
90s. Okay. I don't know who it is, but I'm just pointing out that we are so
Kids
old
today.
that
Yeah,
even our nostalgia is old.
right. So they're nostalgic about the 90s, which in my mind was just a couple of weekends ago.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I was in
There's
full
nothing that I
stride
go
in my
back to, oh
career.
yeah, right, exactly.
Right.
Right. So that's all.
That's not what I reminisce. You're right. I reminisce about the 60s and the
Hmm.
70s.
Hmm. Have you
Okay.
had any medical procedures, Gary?
I thought we would avoid that. And the answer is no, I have not.
Okay, well, I have.
Okay. Pray tell.
I
What
wouldn't ask you unless I
was
wanted you to
something
ask me
taken
back.
off, something replaced, something sutured,
No.
something
I
drained?
had a Mohs. Do you know what a Mohs is?
No,
Mohs?
no.
The dermatologist. You go to the dermatologist and they look around, they go, uh-oh,
There's a Moe's.
there's something. No, we have to no. He goes, first of all, there's something I need to do a biopsy on. So I'm
Which
gonna
is never good.
right.
It
Because
was
he
it
goes,
prefaced with something better than that?
no, he just saw a
Uh-oh,
little
I need to
dot
do a
there and he went,
biopsy.
oh, let me
Okay.
check this out.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh shit, okay, he's gonna check it out. So they have to take us, they'll scrape some skin off of you.
Yeah, yeah.
And they send it to the lab. And well, first of all, he goes, I think it may be precancer. Of which I responded, isn't my entire body precancer? I mean,
We're all
aren't we all
pre-cancer.
walking
Right.
around
If
pre-cancer?
you live to 130, you will get cancer.
Yeah, yeah. So he says, oh, this could be precancer. So they take it and they send it to the lab. And they'll call you back to see if they think that, what that thing is. And they call back and they said it's a carcinoma of some
Okay.
kind.
None of this is sounding good.
Oh, but I've
I mean,
had it
just the
done.
word cancer. If I go to a doctor and the word cancer comes
Well, he
up,
said precancer.
yeah, pre-cancer, whatever, pre-cancer.
Right, I know. So anyhow,
The trailer before
so they
cancer.
take my piece of skin and they send it someplace where apparently it's a laboratory filled with
The
people's
pre-cancer lab,
all
right?
the pre-cancer little skin things
Right.
that
Now,
people.
first of all, I got to ask you a question as you go here.
Yes.
So when he says, okay, pre-cancer to
Mhm.
send to the lab to the results, that's a
Mhm.
period of time you have to wait, right? How long does it
Yes,
take?
it's about a week.
Okay, is that a stressful week?
You
Oh,
get a
no.
call. You get a call. Sometimes the call comes back from the assistant. She goes, everything's fine.
Just a piece of
Silly
chocolate.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, silly us. But more often than not, because I've had it a few times, is they say, oh, we think it's a so-and-so carcinoma, melanoma, uh, Parmesan.
Okay.
I don't know what they say.
Thank you. Thank you for ruining Parmesan for me.
So you have to come in and get the Mo's.
Get the
Now I
Moe's.
asked, now this is
Yeah,
a joke
yeah,
that
I have.
two
What's a
people,
Moe's?
yes, they said I have to have the Mo's. I said, could I get the curly or the shemp?
Of course.
Now I realize this
I
entire
would have gone with a
generation.
Larry.
I'm going with the Larry. So Mo's is what they do is you go in and it's a procedure where they take another little slice from that spot. But this time they go in, they're able to examine it within the office, and you have to sit there for an hour. And if they discover more, they keep digging. So you have to stay there the whole day. And in which they're slicing and slicing like deli meat, like little tiny
On your
pieces
face?
on my face. And so they do this. Now, fortunately, sometimes, and it's happened to me before, they do one layer, and after that layer, they come back and go, "Hey, we have to dig deeper. We're mining here until we get to a point where there's no skin, you know."
Wouldn't you
Uh,
rather have cancer than a hole in your cheek? I mean, how much digging are
no,
they
I'd rather
doing
have a
here?
hole in
Could you
my
stick your tongue
cheek.
through it?
I'd rather have a hole in my cheek.
All
It took me
right.
a little while to think about it, Gary, but I'm convinced I would rather have a
Have
hole
a
in my
hole
cheek.
in your cheek.
Yeah. So
Okay.
anyhow, so then it was only the one slice. They came back and they said, okay, we'll stitch you up. So they stitched me up. There was nothing there before that I
I don't
saw.
see anything.
Well, but if you zoomed in really tight,
Let's not.
yeah. But anyhow, so I had that procedure. So that's really what the only reason I go out of the house now is to have procedures.
And I love the fact that at our age they're called procedures. They're not
Right.
operations. They're not, they're
Absolutely.
procedures. I'm having a
Mhm.
procedure, which usually
Mhm.
means that something is, sutured, drained, removed,
Yeah.
a
But
procedure.
otherwise, I feel great. Absolutely remarkable, to be honest with
Well,
you.
you look great.
Well,
You look
thank you.
great. You look good in blue. You're a winter. It matches your eyes.
No,
You're
stop it, you.
you're naturally a blonde, but now you're silver. So the transition is really moderate.
I'm gonna try. So I'm a silver now.
You're a silver now. We see. Well, I wash my hair
Hmm.
with a brown henna, not a hair dye, but just a shampoo
Oh
that
my
has a
God,
henna
really,
quality.
Gary?
Are you annoyed by the story, or you just can't believe I do that?
Well, it's just that it's like, you are so much of an open book on this show. You just reveal there's nothing that you lost the job. You can't afford to send your kid to college. You're dyeing your hair. I
Dye my
mean,
hair. I'm
oh,
like I'm
I
becoming,
mean, you're
yeah,
literally
George Maharis doing
TMI.
dinner theater in St. Louis with, you know jet black hair. Yeah. Uh, no, like that's what I try to preface with. I'm honest. I'm honest. I'm very
Yes, you
transparent and I'm
are. You're a
honest.
very honest
Life
person.
is great, but
I'll tell
even
you.
in great life, you still have to deal with mortgages and this and that. We're in a drought and blah,
Well, I'll tell you what I'm
there's
dealing with
still
right now.
shit.
I'll tell you what I'm dealing with right now. And you can tell me whether or not I should do this or not.
Okay.
We just got a brand new Philips electronic toothbrush thing. Philips, they
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, okay. So we just brand new. This is like the high new technology toothbrush. So
Okay.
you get it home, you unpack and you go, wow, this is really cool. This is like real, the
Really?
colors,
And it's a
it's really cool.
toothbrush.
And then it goes, and so you go to the instruction box. I mean, remember, you get a toothbrush that didn't come with instructions?
Yeah, he came out of the plastic and then you
Right. So
put it in your mouth
now
and
I got a new toothbrush, a Philips thing, and you got to read the instructions. And the
uh-huh.
first thing it says is download the app
Download the app to brush your teeth.
to brush my teeth.
So is it a water pick and everything? Is it
No, it's
all of
just
the
it's just to brush your teeth, but it wants me to download the app. And it
well,
says by down because it will track my usage and this and how much
what?
effectiveness and whatever. Yeah, this is and I'm thinking, do I really want to get notifications from my toothbrush?
Well, so I don't
I'm
understand.
telling
It's a
you.
brush, but on these
But
brushes
yeah, it's got
are
it's an
little
electronic brush. It's electronic.
electronic brush, but still has brushes.
Yeah,
There's
it's a
still fiber.
brush. Don't you have an
But
electronic brush?
well, you press a button and it goes
Yeah,
right.
that's I have that.
Well,
That's what I'm talking about.
no, because it seems completely ridiculous to have something do this when all I have to do is this, and it requires a battery. I don't require a battery. I pick up my toothbrush, put toothpaste on it, put it in my mouth, and then I go like this, and then I brush my teeth. It seems
Well, I
totally
gotta tell you,
ridiculous to
you
have an
are so
electric
old
toothbrush.
school. That's not
Well,
many
I would
people.
think that's a
You
place where
manually
old
brush your
school
te-
was
you
fine.
manually brush your
Of
teeth
course, I manually brush my teeth. I mean, I understand that
and you mow
electric
your lawn, don't you?
toothbrushes, I understand that electric toothbrushes have been around for years,
Yeah.
but it never really made sense to me. Why?
Well,
Because
because it's
it's
the
not hurting my
RPMs.
wrist.
It's got like 1,000 RPMs compared to my hand. My hand can't do those kind of RPMs.
Well, maybe my hand's more used to this kind of motion. I'm not sure.
No, I
But
can
but
get in
why? But
places.
yes,
I get in
yes.
places I never could
How
get in.
much RPM is necessary to brush your teeth?
I like the RPM. Anyhow, most
Okay.
people too. It's very, very,
But now
very
you get a map that
an app.
shows you an app that what
Yeah.
gives you a map of your mouth that you missed
I
your
haven't
bicuspid.
downloaded. I was wondering whether or not you thought I should download the app because I really feel as though if I download the app, now I'm going to have a toothbrush app on my phone. I got a lot of apps and stuff on my phone. And
Yeah.
now somebody's go, oh, look, he's got a toothbrush app.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what do I have to go on my the app and now notify my toothbrush that I'll be there
That's
in
the
10
kind of thing if
minutes?
I noticed, I wouldn't say to you, but I'd say to my wife, Kenny has a toothbrush app. It's one of those secretive things like, can you
Yeah.
believe that? Now, I understand water picks and toothbrushes. My son has one. Their mother's a dentist. And
Mm,
and I get that because
mm.
water can get under your gum. but I just don't understand plugging in a toothbrush or having to get new batteries for my toothbrush.
Well, you don't have to get new batteries because it's rechargeable. You just put it on the stand and it just
Okay. Yeah.
recharges. And now you don't even have to put it on the stand. It comes in a, they give you like a thing that's a glass, so it's just going to sit in the glass, and the glass conducts electricity, and so it charges that way.
Okay.
So anyhow, I'm gonna download the app, and I'll keep you notified as to, tracking my brushing
Please.
and how I'm
Is
doing.
there a visual that can come with this? Because that would save this for me. Is if I see, oh my God, Kenny really focuses too much on his back molars and
Yeah, well,
needs to
we'll
come
find
up
out
front a
when we
little
can.
more.
Yeah, I will
I'm
actually. I
curious
think
about
I
that.
might edit in a picture so people can see.
Add in a picture. And
Yeah.
also, this only makes sense to me if
Hmm.
there's a plaque monitoring. So, in other words, Kenny missed the back molar and the
The
plaque
plaque
is
monitor.
building. That would make sense to me.
The plaque monitor. Well, that's okay. Well, I will check that out, Gary.
Okay.
But let's talk about local news.
Okay. We have different locals.
Right. Do you have what's your weather forecast called?
What's it called? Oh,
Yeah.
like Storm Center 2, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, KWWO AccuTrack or
How
something.
you got AccuTrack? That's pretty cool. Yeah. We got First Alert.
Okay, first alert. Good.
Yeah. We got what was the other thing? We got AccuWeather.
AccuWeather,
Uh Futurecast.
FutureCast. That's a misnomer. FutureCast. I mean, I get well, they're talking about forecast, FutureCast, but it
Yeah.
sounds to me more like
Well, there is
Nostradamus
nobody.
cast.
I looked at all my local news and nobody just said, "Hey, coming up, the
The
weather
weather.
forecast."
Yeah. Which is what that used to be.
I thought so. But yeah, now they're just
The
coming up with all these.
Well,
So,
they
so
yeah,
the
they
other the
want to
other
sound like the
channels,
most
they just
automated,
well, they
accurate.
go those other channels, they just give you the forecast. Here at Channel 4,
We
we
give you
give
the
you
future.
AccuWeather.
Yes, or the future.
Yeah, we
If
give it
they
a
included some future, predictions, like where the stock market's going to be at the end of next month
right, and not just the
with the
weather.
weather, I'd be delighted.
Now, I imagine that the weather out there is a really significant thing, right?
Yes,
Out here, weather it's basically the
pretty
same
much the same
temperature.
day.
It's
Yeah,
the same day, and yet in the local news, they go to the weather three times.
yeah, and you still have Doppler radar and all of this technology to pinpoint where the high pressure system is going to be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it doesn't seem to mean much out there. It's your weather is seasonal. It's February,
Yeah,
which means it's
yeah,
going to
they really
trickle a little
shouldn't do
bit
the
of
for
misty
they shouldn't
rain.
do the forecast every day. They could get away with once a month.
Look here, we're it's blistering hot right now. Here's something that the new weather paradigm likes to use. It's 97 but feels like 114 because
Yes,
they figure all these metrics of sweat and no
yes.
wind that on your skin it feels. So we're at 114 degrees, which is blistering hot. But there
Wow, and
was
humid.
and humid,
Yeah,
horribly. It's literally like opening an oven and you're baking,
I
water.
know. And good
And
thing you have
so,
air conditioning.
yeah, thank God.
Because a lot of
Um,
homes back in the day, they didn't have air conditioning.
I think
When I
most
grew up,
do. I mean, even if it's a
oh, they
wall
always
unit
did.
now,
Okay.
yeah, we've had it for a long. We've had
Okay.
air conditioning for 5, 6 years now, Ken.
Huh.
Um,
I did not realize
but
that you were so
here's what
advanced
happens
out there.
here. Here's what happens here. Weather's relevant, but the forecast 3 days ago was no rain in sight, sun, 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 blistering hot. But when you have those conditions, Kenneth, weather can develop right then and there because you've got
Yeah.
all this hot air. If just a little trickle of cold comes in. So we
Wow.
had a huge storm out of nowhere, not
Wow.
predicted.
Wow.
So
Well,
that's how dramatic weather can
that's
be.
how people get caught in these flash floods, right?
Yes.
They're standing there, all of a sudden the sky opens
Yeah,
and they're
right.
swept
Because
away.
the conditions, because what weather can't do, even with your Doppler radar, it can't actually predict to the mile where this front is going to be. And if your
Right.
town happens to be where these fronts collide, you can have severe weather.
But still, nevertheless, they are, I mean, so much. more advanced. Because you imagine back in the day when we didn't have satellites to really show us what was going on, and the weather was like, holy
Well,
Christ.
back in the day that we're nostalgic over, which would be like what the 60s.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's all they had
yeah,
was
yeah.
weather predictions based on what it did last year.
Well, out here, the big thing is trying to come up with the alerts for an earthquake to inform you that an
Yes.
earthquake is coming. So they have sensors all over the state or into all thing. And after spending billions and billions of dollars in creating this whole thing, they are absolutely sure that they can probably predict an earthquake within 3 seconds. So you have
Within
three.
3 seconds,
So when the
right?
alert comes out,
Earthquake. By the time you comprehend the word
right,
earthquake,
right. So
you're rattling.
you get an earthquake alert. 3 seconds later,
So
we
you
have an
really have
earthquake.
to do the math in your head. If as soon as I hear the alert, I go to there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we're hopefully we'll get it to 5 seconds in
Well,
the
I'm nostalgic. I was there in what was it, 93, 94, the big earthquake, the Northridge earthquake.
yeah, Northridge, yeah.
That's my
And
90s.
I know earthquakes can be terribly tragic, but that Northridge quake, which was tragic, and I do people lost their lives, right?
Yeah. That apartment
But my
complex that just
experience as a New Yorker was, oh my God, we had an earthquake. Oh, what a beautiful day. It's 75 degrees and sunny. Everybody was outside. People were taking out their golf clubs and playing golf that day. All over the country, they were reporting on the giant
you
golf clubs,
yes.
but it was still 75 degrees and sunny, and people were, my neighbors were putting their golf clubs.
What I do recall is that it was a beautiful day, but I was thrown out of bed. I lived in
See?
a little apartment in Sherman Oaks. I was thrown out of bed and I didn't know what was going. You don't know what's going on when you're
Mhm.
sound asleep, and then all of a sudden, and what was 15 seconds? Well, 15 seconds when the world is going like
Yes.
this is a
Yeah.
long time.
Yes, it
So
is.
I finally figured out it was an earthquake, and I got in a door frame. But then I was so disoriented when it was over. I walked into my living room and I saw all these shadows. And I thought, did I have a slumber party last night? I mean, I just
Oh,
didn't know it. And then I realized it's all of my furniture, the
wow.
refrigerator, the TV, all the books, everything, lost
Oh, so you got,
everything.
oh,
The
wow.
building stayed intact, but I lost everything inside
Oh, I'm sorry to
there.
hear that. But it
Well,
still was a beautiful day.
but that's the point. I went outside and now the sun is starting to come up, and all of these people are walking around like, what the fuck? Right? What the fuck? But the sun came up and gorgeous day. Absolutely beautiful day.
Which is, I mean, if you're gonna have a natural disaster,
Right.
like you guys had a big tornado, it ruins your day. Probably
It ruins, yeah,
the
it
whole day is
does.
shot,
The
right?
day is shot.
If you got floods, the day is shot. You got
Yes.
all this stuff
And
today. But
usually the clouds linger, so it's not
yeah,
sunny.
yeah, you know what? But we were playing basketball, my kids, in the driveway.
For this last one.
No, 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 in Northridge, the one
Oh, the
that
Northridge.
I always say the most frightening thing, I guess she probably don't, the most frightening thing was that seeing my neighbor come out at 5 o'clock in the morning with her curlers on. It's like, holy shit. That was the most that I had to run back into the house.
Did I ever tell you? Here's an anecdote, but it comes from that time.
Hmm.
Because after I'd recovered from that earthquake, I still lived in the apartment. I got $1,500 from FEMA, buy new furniture or whatever. And I went to a party before the Rose Bowl, and
Hmm.
a friend gave me mushrooms. Did I ever tell you this story?
I don't know.
And I took the mushrooms because I'm living alone. I was like, what the hell? And nothing happened.
Hmm.
Nothing happened. And then I got home to my little apartment and they kicked in. And
Wow.
I'm all alone and I'm now hallucinating. Went to my answering machine and I've been gone all day. You have no messages. And I thought, oh, that's a horrible thing to hear when you're tripping. Is
Right, that you have
nobody
no
even
messages?
called me today?
Wow.
Nobody cares about me. So what I did, Kenny, is I took all my clothes off because somehow yeah, you have to remember this is psilocybin logic, right?
Well, I can
I
just see
took
you writing a manual and everything. Okay, the first thing you do is you take your clothes
take
off.
your clothes off. In my mind, I took my clothes off because I thought I'm going to go outside. Somebody's going to see the guy without clothes and they're going to come to my aid. That was
Wow.
logical to me. And I remember it thinking, if I'm running around naked,
Isn't that
somebody
amazing?
is going to say, oh my God, the poor guy, he
Now we
needs
would just
help.
shoot you. We would just shoot you.
Now, yeah. So I'm on my way outside of my little apartment, which goes into the courtyard outside where all the other apartments are, and I trip and fall, hit my head on the doorknob, and pass out on my back,
You're naked?
totally naked. Pass out on my back. So I'm flat on my back, totally naked. Only my knees to my feet are inside the door. The rest of my naked body is out in the courtyard, right? But
Yes.
here's the thing, Kenny. When I woke
Was it
up
a beautiful day?
when I woke up at 10 o'clock, it was a beautiful day. The neighbors had picked up their newspaper right next to me.
Oh my goodness.
So all of these people in my courtyard on this beautiful day saw me lying naked in my doorway with probably a trickle of blood out of my head, and nobody said a thing. I got my things, went back into the house, felt fine, got dressed,
Wow.
went to the Rose Bowl, saw my neighbors later. Hey, how you doing, Larry? Hey, good, Gary. What's going on? Nothing. Went to the game. Nobody ever mentioned naked Gary bleeding on his back in the courtyard. There's no ribbon for this story except to say that's LA.
Right. No, it's great.
LA.
I'm just wondering whether or not it would be that way today because it's such a
I
different
doubt
vibe.
it. I
Yeah.
doubt it. I wouldn't be able to be within 100 yards of anybody today. But in
Right.
1994 or whatever this was,
It
it
was,
was like,
by the
well,
way, I don't know when streaking. You talk about nostalgia. Was it
yeah,
weren't people streaking back then?
yeah. Well, certainly they were in the 70s. That's my
Yeah.
nostalgia
Right.
when people
Yeah.
I streaked, whatever. Yeah,
You struck?
around the neighborhood. I didn't go on camera at a
I
football
don't
game or
care.
anything.
Because if you
We
went
all went
naked in the
streaking.
streets,
We all
I,
did.
excuse me, sir, I did not streak.
Well, you were in Brooklyn or wherever you were, that would be weird. But in the Midwest
I suppose
on
in
a
the
summer
Midwest.
night, yeah, we went streaking
Hmm.
and it was loads of fun.
Just for in weeks ahead, what we're looking forward to is Dara Gottfried, Gilbert
Yes,
Gottfried's widow,
widow.
unfortunately, sweet woman, and she's got a lot of stuff going on with Gilbert, and I just thought it would be wonderful to have
That'd
her
be
on to talk
wonderful.
about Gilbert because Gilbert Gottfried was, I think, one of my favorite comedians of all time.
Absolutely. I never got to know him. I met him. We had the connection of Saturday Night Live. We never really talked about it.
Well,
I
that
don't know if
was
he
well, that was the
uh,
thing about Gilbert.
would have remembered.
I knew him for, and this is kind of like what I want to talk to her about. I knew him since like 1984 because at MTV, we had put him in a promo for MTV. And I thought he was so funny in the promo. He was nobody at this point.
Yeah.
And I call and I asked Barbara Kanowitz, who produced the piece, I said, I'd love to get in touch with him, give me the number of his agent or whatever so I can call. And she says, he doesn't have an agent. Call his mother.
Yeah, right.
So I called the house and, was Gilbert there? The mother answered, and you should put him on the phone. And he said yes. He always said yes to everything. And from there, from 1984, I would always call on Gilbert through all of the shows that I've done. He's always been a part of it.
Yeah.
But he never was comfortable, even through all those years, he was always Gilbert. He never just became that I could become personally close to him.
Well,
He was always a character.
the character. But when did he create the character that we know him for? Because I remember him before that character.
Well, I think it evolved, and I don't know specifically. I mean, there is a great documentary, by the way. You should did you see the documentary about Dara actually, I think, produced it, a documentary about him. So I'm going to
No,
send
I
you the
haven't.
link. You should watch it.
Send me a link.
But yeah, she's coming on. That'll be that'll be great. Also, my friend Paul Schaefer, hopefully, will be on
Well,
soon.
he was my friend too, once upon a time. I'm
That's
the
right.
first person to imitate Paul Schaefer on television.
That's right. And
You
it was
know?
the first thing he said to me. I said, come do the show with me and Gary. And he said, is that the person who used to do the impersonation of me? And I said, yes, it is.
I think I
Yeah.
did him twice. But I
So
remember him saying after I did it, and I'll bring it up with him, I'm
mm,
doable. I'm doable.
he is
It
doable. There's
never
no
occurred to
question.
him that I'm
Yeah.
doable. I'm
Right.
doable.
Yeah. 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 So with that in mind, those things and other people that a guy who has created is a showrunner of a show called Yellow Jackets.
Oh,
The big hit
that's a
on
big hit.
Showtime. He'll be coming on. And I think a guy from Wizards of Waverly Place who created
Well,
that show.
it's all great. You remember, of course, I'm going to Scotland from the middle of just before the middle of October till early November.
So how long are you going to be away? A
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks. We're just going to plan ourselves, but we can go to Ireland. We're going to
Well,
down
let
to
me tell you,
England.
for a person that can't afford to send his kid to college. Now,
Well,
how does your son
oh,
look at that and go, "Oh,
okay,
I
smart
can't go
ass.
to college, but you go"?
My wife has three kids of her own, and she's not responsible for my kids. So, so how am I going to Scotland?
So you're a
I
freeloader.
married my vehicle to Scotland.
You're a freeloader.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching the return of the Gary and Kenny Show. We're on all the popular podcast platforms. We have our own YouTube channel, the Gary and Kenny Show. We'd love it if you went there, watched our shows, gave us a thumbs up. We are on DBTV, which is streaming not live, but it's on what? Roku. Find us there. Google the Gary and Kenny Show. I've even noticed that we have a little Google space that if you Google my name, the Gary and Kenny Show comes right up. Did you know that?
Oh, fantastic! Yes.
So there you go.
Well, we're Googleable.
We're Googleable. We're Googleable. Okay.
Thanks.
See you later.